Beer is a staple of global culture, consumed by millions at everything from stadium games to backyard barbecues. But in the ancient Roman Empire, pouring a drink like this was seen as a betrayal of civilization itself. This hatred wasn't born from a lack of ingredients or brewing knowledge. The Romans had steady access to barley and the means to ferment it. The aversion was the result of a deliberate, centuries-long smear campaign. It was a silent rivalry, where beverages were used to distinguish between the civilized world and the savage. For the Roman elite, you were what you drank. Rejecting wine in favor of beer didn't just indicate a dietary preference, it signaled a rejection of Rome's identity. Influential scholars shaped this public disdain, starting with Pliny the Elder and his encyclopedia, Natural History. Pliny mocked the beverage by refusing to acknowledge it as its own entity. He ironically labeled it barley wine, a term meant to remind his readers that the grape version was inherently superior. The historian Tacitus took the attack further in his work Germania. He branded beer as the drink of the uncultured tribes living beyond the borders of the empire, associating it with a lack of refinement. Emperor Julian the Apostate added his own venomous take, writing that the smell of Celtic beer reminded him of a drunk peasant's vomit. While beer was depicted as crude, the Romans elevated wine as a symbol of agricultural mastery. It required years of care and specialized terracotta storage. Wine was served in ornate goblets at philosophical banquets and high-stakes political gatherings, becoming the primary fuel for the Roman social order. These elites successfully branded the two drinks as opposites. Wine became the embodiment of order, while beer represented primitive chaos. But far from the marble libraries of Rome, on the freezing, muddy frontiers of Britannia, the propaganda met a harsh reality. Grapes could not survive the northern cold. To stay warm and healthy, Roman legionaries stationed there had to rely on locally fermented barley. Archaeological proof exists in the Vindolanda tablets, a collection of handwritten military records found near Hadrian's Wall. Among these records is a letter from cavalryman Masculus. He wrote his superiors formally requesting a shipment of cervicia, the Latin word for beer. This standard logistical request reveals that soldiers' expanding Roman influence were sustained by the very drink their emperors publicly mocked. On the edges of the world, practicality mattered more than snobbery. The Romans drank beer for survival, though it was rarely celebrated or acknowledged in the capital. General Agricola, a veteran commander of the British frontier, attempted to bring the drink into the light when he returned to Rome in 83 AD. He took the step of hiring Breton brewers to open a commercial brewery right in the center of the capital. The venture failed almost immediately. It wasn't closed by force. The public simply ignored it, refusing to patronize a business selling the drink of the conquered. Agricola's experiment revealed the strength of the elite narrative. Even a celebrated general couldn't sell it to a population conditioned to see it as primitive. In the 4th century CE, the transition to Christianity further marginalized the status of beer. Following the Edict of Milan, wine was integrated into the sacrament of the Eucharist. This transition gave the grape a divine, untouchable status within the state. For centuries afterward, beer remained in the shadows, cemented as a drink for the lower classes and the tribes of the north. Dietary choices acted as a geopolitical boundary. The Romans used specific ferments to signal who belonged at the center of the empire and who remained an outsider. The next time you open a cold beer, you're enjoying the drink that Rome spent centuries trying to label as inferior and failing.